because he couldn't go, he couldn't get close to the Jagannath deity. See, the Jagannath deity, most of the time, because he represents Krishna in Dwarka, so most of the time he is worshipped in the mood of awe and reverence, on the platform of rules and regulations. But the one time of the year when that does not apply is during the Rath Yatra festival. And at that time, Lord Jagannath is worshipped by the Sabaras, the tribal people of Puri, who now have become fishermen. They live along the coast, and they go out to sea in these long boats. Like 20 guys will get in this enormous catamaran rowboat and go out to sea for 2 or 3 days at a time fishing. These are tough guys. They're like really strong. So they carry the Lord Jagannath, out from the Jagannath temple and put him in the Rath car, the chariot. And then everybody, all the devotees gather together and they pull the chariot down to the Gundicha temple by the ocean. And at the Gundicha temple, the Lord is worshipped exclusively by the Sabaras. The Brahmanas can't come close. They're not allowed to worship the Lord or even see the Lord during the 2 weeks that he remains at Gundicha, which represents Vrindavan. So, 50 weeks out of the year, Lord Jagannath is worshipped by strict rules and regulations. But Lord Chaitanya was not on the platform of rules and regulations. There's a nice statement in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta that Lord Chaitanya appeared to teach devotional service in spontaneous love. I can't recall the exact verse, but it's in the Adi Leela someplace. I recently, or not so recently, maybe a few months ago, quoted it on the forum. You might try looking it up on the forum or look it up in the database. Basically, Lord Chaitanya appeared to teach the process of spontaneous love by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Now, if we're unqualified for the stage of spontaneous love, we have to practice in the stage of regulated devotional service. But certainly Lord Chaitanya didn't have to do that. So when he was living at Jagannath Puri, he would go, he deliberately chose his residence near Tota Gopinath temple so that he could go and see the Lord in the mood of spontaneous love. He would go very privately, very confidentially. If you go there today, Tota Gopinath is a very small temple. The deity is only about this tall, about maybe 18 inches tall, half of, what's that, 500 centimeters. I have to do everything metric now because we're going to India. Anyway, Tota Gopinath is very small and a self-manifested deity. And so when Lord Chaitanya disappeared, he entered into the Tota Gopinath deity. And as a result, now the Tota Gopinath deity has like a crack in his leg where Lord Chaitanya entered into. So, does that answer your question? Interesting question, huh? It's a good question. Confirmed. Yeah. Any others?
From verse 26.
Of
question. Question from Tio. He says, well, basically at the end of the word, the end of the verse, it says Mahatapaha. If that is pronounced or not.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I noticed that, but one of these verses is not pronounced. And
Yeah, that's one of those slight differences.
Okay.
Not a biggie. We're not, we're not academics, we're not Sanskrit scholars, we're devotees. So what counts is the meaning, not the strict grammatical rules and regulations. Huh? When we're chanting Vishnu Sahasranam, we're thinking of the meaning. That's the real value of Vishnu Sahasranam, because Vishnu Sahasranam mentions all the incarnations described in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there's story after story after story of the pastimes of the Lord in his different incarnations. And of course, all the pastimes of the Lord are in association with his devotees. You see? So they're always in one kind of mood or another kind of mood, depending on the Lord, what he wants to enjoy. So when he comes, then these pastimes are passed down from generation to generation, and they become a source of great pleasure for the devotees. The devotees become enlivened just hearing these pastimes. They're so wonderful. Because the Lord's pleasure pastimes with his devotees are just full of love and affection. Beautiful interchanges of dialogue, exquisite devotional moods. Many, many examples of pure devotional service and of devotees who got the darshan of the Lord. So we like to hear this. It's very encouraging. Oh, this devotee got to see the Lord. Dhruva Maharaj got to see the Lord, and he was only 6 months old. Mother Kunti got to speak with Lord Krishna while he was leaving Dwarka, and actually was able to persuade him to stay for 2 more weeks, or leaving Hastinapur, leaving for Dwarka, and got him to stay for 2 more weeks when nobody else, even Arjuna, couldn't get him to stay. So there's so many sweet pastimes where the independent Supreme Lord becomes subordinate to his devotees' love. This is so nice, so wonderful. This is the real meaning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So when we chant these wonderful holy names, this reminds us of all these stories in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And sometimes we get a little overwhelmed by just hearing these names, because it reminds us of all those beautiful pastimes in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So even Lord Chaitanya is mentioned in Vishnu Sahasranam, which is remarkable because Vishnu Sahasranam was narrated at least 3,000 years, no more, 4,000 years before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. More than 4,000 years. So how did Bhishma know? The great devotees know everything. The pastimes of the Lord are eternal. Lord Chaitanya appears in every Kali Yuga, and especially right after the appearance of Krishna in his original form. Lord Chaitanya appears in his original form, not as an incarnation of Vishnu, but as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Svayam Bhagavan, the source of all incarnations. Another question?
Question from Theo. Do we have to memorize the entire meaning of Sri Vishnu Sahasranam then, or is it sufficient to chant it with faith and proper intent?
You don't have to do anything. But the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. It's like anything. If you really want to enjoy music, learn to play an instrument. You'll appreciate music so much more if you learn an instrument. So if you want to really appreciate Vishnu Sahasranam, read Bhagavad-gītā, read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, read Caitanya-caritāmṛta, then come back and recite Vishnu Sahasranam. It'll mean so much more to you. Yeah, it's sufficient. I mean, sufficient for what? Sufficient to solve your material problems? Yes. Sufficient to develop love of God? No. That requires more dedication, deeper practice. That's it?
No, that's not.
Oh, good.
Could you please tell us your favorite pastime of Lord Chaitanya, if you have one?
Oh, boy.
Off the top of your head.
Which one is that? What my favorite pastime of Lord Chaitanya? I can't pick one. They're all so amazing. How could I pick one? I mean, if I just think of them all, you know, they're just, every one of them is transcendental and wonderful. How could I pick one? It's not possible.